We were at this backyard dinner in Denver, the kind you go to out of obligation, not desire. Lawn chairs, string lights, hipster charcuterie boards with ingredients no one can pronounce. Duck prosciutto, fig mustard, imported olives. Everyone pretending they weren't exhausted from the week, smiling too hard, drinking too fast. Megan fit in perfectly. She always did. I was nursing a second old-fashioned, half listening to a story about someone's van conversion when Megan's phone lit up on the chair next to me. The screen faced up, unguarded. It was one of those little alerts, live story still going. I glanced down, out of instinct more than anything. I saw flashing bar lights and a dark vinyl booth, dimly backlit. There were drinks on the table, clinking with laughter in the background. I didn't think much of it at first, figured it was a throwback or something random, until I noticed the wrist. It was a man's hand, resting just slightly inside the frame. He reached for his drink. His cuff pulled back, revealing a massive silver chronograph. Thick band, black face, too big for subtlety. Aiden's watch. I'd know it anywhere. It was the kind of watch you wear when you need people to think you're interesting. Megan once called it gaudy but confident. The same words she used to describe Aiden when she first hired him for brand development at her studio. I just sat there staring at the screen for a minute, pretending to still be part of the conversation around me. The video looped. Same frame, same hand, same watch. It had only been posted 10 minutes ago. That's when I realized Megan had gone quiet. I glanced up, and she was standing by the drink table, laughing with Claire and that guy from the kombucha company. She didn't have her phone on her. She hadn't touched it in over 20 minutes. So how was her account still going live? When I got home that night, earlier than her, which was unusual, I noticed something else. The kitchen was spotless except for 2 wine glasses in the sink. One had a smear of lipstick. Fresh. Neither glass was from dinner. I'd used a beer can. She hadn't had wine all evening. None of our guests had come back with us. Everyone had left directly from the dinner party, tipsy and Ubered. I just stood there staring at them. The glasses. The tiny details that screamed something wasn't adding up. I opened our smart lock app on my phone. It logs every unlock, every fob used. There it was. 12:14 a.m. A secondary fob had unlocked the front door. Megan wasn't home yet. I refreshed the log. 15 minutes later, the primary fob, hers, unlocked the door again. 2 entries. One of them by someone who wasn't me. I waited for her in the living room, not sure what I even planned to say. When she walked in, she looked radiant. Cheeks flushed, hair messy in the way she called casual goddess. She seemed surprised to see me still up. Gave me this weird smirk like I was being clingy for staying awake. "You okay?" she asked, kicking off her boots. "You look like you saw a ghost." I just nodded. "Long day. You get home late?" She shrugged. Bar stuff ran long. We were filming content for next month's challenge series. I tried to keep my face blank. "Did you post a live story from the bar?" She blinked. "No, I don't think so. Maybe Claire did?" "No, it was from your account." Her expression shifted for half a second. Barely enough to register. Then she scoffed. "Oh yeah, we were testing reels and transitions. It might have gone live accidentally. Happens sometimes. You know how glitchy the new update is." I stared at her for a second too long, and she noticed. Her eyes narrowed. That's when she flipped it. "Ben," she said, using that condescending tone she reserved for when she wanted me to feel like a child. "If you're going to start policing my posts, we've got a much bigger problem than a tech glitch." Policing. That word hung in the air like poison. I changed the subject. "Who came back with you?" I asked casually, nodding toward the sink. She followed my gaze and saw the glasses. "What?" "There are 2 wine glasses. You didn't drink any tonight, and I know I didn't. So?" She stared at them, then laughed. "Oh, those? That was from earlier. Maybe Claire and I had a drink before heading out." Claire took an Uber straight from the dinner. Silence. Then she crossed her arms. "I don't like this energy," she said. "This interrogator thing you do is not healthy." I've told you 100 times, we're building something that requires flexibility. If you can't handle that, maybe we need to reassess boundaries. Boundaries, her favorite word lately. Ever since her friends started pushing their personal development books and half-baked podcasts on her. She stormed upstairs after that. I sat in the dark living room, numb. 10 minutes later, I heard the suitcase. Zipper. Slam. Drawer. Slam. Thud. She came back downstairs with her roller bag, wearing yoga leggings and a hoodie, and announced she was going on a week-long detox. No timeline. No details. No invite to talk it out. Just declarations. I need to reset, she said, grabbing her charger. I've been absorbing too much toxic energy. Everyone's telling me I need to take space. For me. Everyone. Meaning her trio of drama-hungry friends. Serena, Liv, and Claire. The same ones who once told her a marriage without power shifts is just codependency with jewelry. They'd been nudging her for months now. Subliminal suggestions that she needed to level up. That I was too emotionally contained, too logical, too grounded. They didn't want to see her stable. They wanted to see her dramatic, chaotic, more like them. I stood by the door while she put on her sneakers. She didn't look at me as she zipped up her coat. Where are you going? I asked quietly. She gave me this vague, floaty answer. Somewhere with better air. Less male energy. That was the last thing she said before she walked out. No hug. No I love you. No remorse. Just exit stage left. I didn't try to stop her. I didn't even ask who she was going with. Because by then I already knew. I opened my notes app and logged the timestamp. 12:14 a.m. Smart lock opened by unknown fob. Live story posted from bar. Aiden's watch visible. 2 wine glasses. Her phone left at the party. Her delayed return. I didn't want to be the kind of guy who builds a case. But she left me no choice. And as I sat in the empty living room, staring at the door she'd slammed shut behind her, one thought pulsed louder than anything else. This wasn't about detox. It wasn't about space. This was the beginning of something else. The beginning of the end. She left the driveway at 12:52 a.m. Tires crunching over gravel like a slow exhale. No goodbye. No final glance. Just vanished into the night with her yoga mat bag slung over her shoulder and a half-finished green juice tucked in the side pocket of her suitcase. I stood in the upstairs window and watched the taillights fade into the dark. Arms crossed, pulse steady. I didn't text her. Didn't call. Didn't ask where she was going or who she was staying with. She had made her choice. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, pulled out my legal pad, and did something I hadn't let myself do in months. I started writing it all down. Not from anger. Not from grief. From clarity. A full timeline, broken into pieces I'd ignored when they were scattered. But now the whole thing was starting to arrange itself like a mosaic I could no longer unsee. February, the first mention of work dinners. Harmless at first. A new brand partnership with some supplement startup. Aiden was introduced to the team that same week, hired part-time to build out the digital arm of her studio. Megan called him resourceful and grounded. Her version of flattery had always been code for dangerous but manageable. That should have been my first red flag. March, she stopped using emojis in our texts. Strange detail, but it stood out. Where there used to be hearts or little winks, now it was just dry okay, and yep. That's also around the time her notifications started disappearing. I'd glance at her screen and see previews replaced with message hidden. She told me it was a privacy setting, because Liv kept peeking over her shoulder. But Liv had moved to Austin 2 months prior. April, she turned off our shared location. No explanation. Claimed she wanted to limit tracking because she read a book about digital boundaries. Meanwhile, she forgot I was still on the admin account of the studio's back-end dashboard, where I could see her expense notes. Spa appointments were listed under corporate bonding, while massages went in as client outreach. One day, I jokingly asked who she was bonding with. She said, "You always think wellness is just spa stuff," then changed the subject. May, the studio hosted an event, a big one, at this rooftop downtown. I was supposed to be there. But the day of, she told me it had become team only due to capacity. I respected the boundary. That night, I saw photos pop up online, stories from guests and vendors. Megan was in the center of it all, laughing in a white dress I'd never seen before. Aiden was behind her in almost every photo, leaning in, always close. I asked her about it the next day. She rolled her eyes. He's part of the event team, Ben. Don't turn this into something. I dropped it, like I always did. June. She started signing contracts without reading them. I found out because our accountant called, confused why the family trust was listed as the co-owner of her new podcast studio rental. I hadn't approved that. When I asked Megan, she said her assistant filled out the paperwork. It's just a signature, not a commitment. That was her logic now. Somewhere around that time, she also stopped referring to our future. It was subtle. Instead of we, she'd say, I've been thinking about what's next. Her dreams had stopped including me, and I didn't even notice it happening until the pronouns changed. July, she stopped sleeping well. Not in the usual restless way. No, she started sleeping in full workout clothes, like she could bolt at any moment. I asked if she was anxious, if she needed a break. She said, I'm fine. You're the one who's always anxious. August, the fights got weird. Not loud, not cruel, just strategic. Like she was studying me mid-conversation, waiting for the right phrase to twist into an accusation. I'd say something like, I wish we spent more time together. And she'd shoot back, that's a very possessive thing to say, Ben. Then came the pop-psych terms. Gaslighting, trauma responses, enmeshment. Every disagreement became a diagnosis. I told her she'd changed. She said I was projecting. That same month, she filed for a business license renewal and forgot to update our joint ownership status. The wellness studio we built together, from pitch deck to lease to launch, was now listed solely under her name. When I asked why, she waved it off. It's easier for taxes. September. A friend of mine, Clark, who helped us structure the trust years ago, invited me for coffee. He had a weird look on his face, the kind people wear when they're debating whether or not to tell you something life-altering. You ever review the voluntary absence clause? He asked, sipping black coffee like it was whiskey. I laughed. The what? He explained. If one of us left, disappeared without formal agreement for more than 48 hours, and we didn't notify the board of trustees, control shifted to the remaining partner until review. We drafted that clause together years ago, during one of Megan's I need options phases. Back then, I thought she just liked legal elegance. Now, I realized she'd been planning structures that sounded fair. Until they weren't. I told Clark I remembered it, barely. He nodded like he was preparing me for something bigger. October. She started calling everything a mirror. Arguments, decisions, frustrations. This is a mirror for your lack of trust, she'd say. Or, this trigger you're feeling? It's not me, it's your reflection. It got to a point where I couldn't ask a single question without being accused of clinging to a narrative. But the biggest mirror was her suitcase. The way she packed it so proudly, like she was finally becoming who her friends told her she deserved to be. As she packed, tossing in overpriced supplements and boutique activewear, I stood in the doorway watching. She didn't even look at me. This isn't personal, she said. I just need clarity. I didn't answer. I was too busy writing the ending in my head. Because this detox? It wasn't emotional. It was tactical. Every withdrawal she'd made, financial, emotional, legal, wasn't a side effect of burnout. It was positioning. I pulled out the file I'd started 6 weeks ago. Labeled it Transition Prep. Inside were documents I hadn't dared to finish: power of attorney drafts, trust activation clauses, studio asset breakdowns. They weren't signed yet, just placeholders. But now, with her gone, the countdown had big asterisk N. And I would finish what she started. Only this time on my terms. The direct proof came faster than I expected. Less than 12 hours after she left. I wasn't even looking for it. Not actively. But when someone disappears mid-argument with a suitcase full of self-help journals and Reiki oils, you start to notice things. You pay attention differently. And I'd already learned that her retreats were never really about stillness. They were about strategy. It started with a charge on our joint card. Something innocuous. A resort transaction in Taos about 4 hours from Denver. The charge was labeled, Romantic Set, Couples Serenity. The kind of thing you'd get when booking a spa suite with matching robes and dual breakfast service. I clicked into the line item. Room service for 2. Wine pairing. Lavender massage add-ons. Not exactly your standard solo detox. I knew better than to react. Instead, I did what I'd always done best. Stay calm. Gather facts. Don't give her anything she can twist into emotional immaturity. The next breadcrumb came from the neighborhood group chat. Karen, the older woman 3 doors down, shared a clip from her Ring camera. Weird car activity on our block late last night, she wrote. I nearly scrolled past it until I saw our driveway. The timestamp was 12:13 a.m. Seconds before the smart lock had recorded that unfamiliar key fob. In the grainy video, I saw headlights pull up. Megan stepped out of the passenger side. She wore the same hoodie she left in, but her body language had changed, lighter, looser. She walked around to the driver's side and leaned in through the window. Then she kissed him. Slow. Familiar. Not the kind of kiss that gets explained away as friendly. The guy didn't get out of the car. Just reached for her hand. Squeezed it. The window was tinted, but the watch on his wrist caught the porch light just enough to reflect. Same one I saw in her live story. Aiden. There it was. Confirmation. Not theory. Not paranoia. Not projection. Just evidence. She kissed him and walked into our home like she had nothing to hide. And I let her. That morning I didn't call her. I didn't send *TS. I didn't ask for an explanation. Instead, I opened the folder I'd labeled Transition Prep and turned it into something new, Execution Protocol. The documents were waiting, partially filled and signed, but ready. I pulled out the irrevocable trust clause. The one that was only triggered if either of us went absent for more than 48 hours without formal notice. Megan's detox qualified. She'd made a point of not saying when she'd return. Her friends had encouraged her to go off-grid. That phrase now worked in my favor. The clause was designed for protection, not punishment. But like most things Megan liked to *P*****, boundaries, language, trust, it could be repurposed. She thought space gave her the upper hand. She didn't realize that space also gave me time. Time to move. I called Clark, the semi-retired estate lawyer who helped us structure the original documents when we were still pretending to be a partnership. He answered on the third ring, voice already curious. She left, I said plainly. For good? No, I replied. But long enough. He paused. You want to initiate? Yeah. We met at his office downtown. Brick building. Old leather chairs. No pretense. Clark had always liked me because I didn't use words like vibration or alignment when talking about tax codes. He slid the papers across the desk. This is the clause activation. Once you sign, you get temporary full control of the trust for the next 90 days, enough time for audit, asset freeze, and reallocation. I nodded. And the studio? She tied the studio's lease and payment pipeline to the family trust last year for tax efficiency. I advised her against it. But she insisted, I said. Said it would keep things clean. Clark gave a dry smile. Well, it's clean now. Technically, once you activate, the trust has legal control over her wellness business, including access to payroll, operating expenses, and lease agreements. She'll challenge it. She can't. Not for 90 days. And by then, the audit lock will be in place. I signed. That evening, I sat at our kitchen table again. Same place I'd been the night she packed her suitcase like a performance artist. Same spot where I'd counted wine glasses and noted smart lock pings. I opened her studio dashboard. My access still worked. She hadn't thought to revoke admin rights. The irony? She'd spent months building a new wing of her business, coaching, studio rentals, group wellness training, and filed all of it under the same umbrella LLC connected to our trust. For simplicity, she said. That simplicity just handed me control. I paused only once while reviewing the calendar. I saw her upcoming appointments, her private retreats, her immersive couples alignment workshop, scheduled for the same week she told me she'd be offline. She hadn't even tried to hide it. I suppose she thought if she didn't name it out loud, it couldn't hurt me. She underestimated how dangerous quiet people become when you give them silence to work with. The next 24 hours moved fast. Clark's team filed all required notifications to the board. The joint accounts were flagged for review. Her name was removed from immediate signature access. Her automatic transfers from studio earnings to her personal bank account paused pending compliance check. That same night, I walked through the house alone. It was still clean from the night of the dinner party. But now it felt different, like I was walking through a place that had quietly shifted ownership. Not just legally, spiritually. Her presence lingered in details. A half-burned candle, her shoes by the door, her toothbrush. But all of it now existed on borrowed time. I moved her favorite mug, the one that said, "Do no harm but take no **T, into the back of the cabinet. Her energy wouldn't live in the center anymore. Then I made a list. Not legal this time. Personal. Remove her garage access. Reset guest room keypad. Disable cloud sync. Cancel her admin rights on the studio site. Pull security footage from the front camera. Archive texts and messages for records. Freeze shared streaming accounts. Update the private email she never knew I had." Every task gave me back a little more oxygen. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt prepared. Let her have her detox. Let her post cryptic captions about releasing stagnant patterns and unlearning trauma responses that aren't yours. She thinks she's beginning a cleanse, but really, she just triggered a quiet, irreversible transfer of power. She thinks she's gone for a week, but by the time she comes back, everything will have changed. Her absence was louder than her presence had ever been. Not because the house was quieter, though it was, but because of what her silence allowed me to activate. Megan didn't know it yet, but her week to reset had kicked off a timeline she couldn't pause or reverse. The structure she had spent years building, pieced together from therapy phrases, curated detachment, and tax loopholes, was suddenly operating without her. Day 2 of her absence, Clark's office completed the initial filings. Trust control was now mine, legally and uncontested. The clock had started ticking the moment she left without written notice or board registration. That 48-hour clause she once said was just a technical safeguard had now become the axis on which everything spun. I wasn't rushing. There was no panic, just a steady cadence to each move. First, the joint accounts. Per trust protocol, shared accounts were frozen under audit flag, pending reauthorization. That meant Megan's daily wellness expenses, branded teas, skincare treatments, Instagram promotions, all coded under business development, stopped clearing. The card declined 3 times before her bank sent her a standard controller update notice. I didn't need to be there to see her face when she opened it. Second, the studio. The lease was tied directly to the trust under a subclause she had insisted on for tax efficiency. Her studio manager, Aaron, received a digital notice of ownership reclassification, prompting a signature update in the internal admin panel. That update triggered a secondary change. Access to the studio's payroll dashboard was now routed through my account. I didn't alter anything. Not yet. But I made a silent note. The power was no longer shared. It had shifted. The third change was less obvious but more surgical. Megan's name was removed from the cloud-based shared folders where we stored all business records. Those folders included receipts, contracts, vendor files, and a financial forecast spreadsheet she relied on for investor reports. She liked to say she ran a clean ship, but in reality, she floated through by charisma and branding. Without visibility into those files, she was running blind. It wasn't about control for me, it was about clarity. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just reacting to her chaos. I was navigating with intent. Meanwhile, her Instagram stories trickled in like postcards from an alternate timeline. Candles, rose petal baths, reconnecting to self. Caption after caption of spiritual detox rhetoric, All of it meant to cast herself as the misunderstood heroine in a narrative of emotional misalignment. She had no idea what was happening off camera. But someone else did. Erin, her studio manager, called me 2 days into the transition. "I got the update from the trust board," she said cautiously. "Does this mean you're taking over the studio?" "Temporarily," I replied. "It's part of the clause Megan signed on to, just until the audit completes." "She didn't say anything about it," Erin said. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Instead, I asked her a simple question. "Has Megan been expensing her personal wellness retreats through the studio card?" There was a pause. She said it was all brand research. Meaning? She logged a resort trip last month under client alignment therapy. And the guest she brought with her? I assumed it was a vendor, Erin said. She never named him. She didn't need to, I said. I've already seen the receipts. Erin stayed quiet, which told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't complicit, just cautious. The kind of employee who knew when to stop asking questions. "Don't worry," I said. "Nothing will change day to day. You'll still run operations. I just need visibility." She thanked me, and in that moment, I knew I'd secured something Megan never could. Her team's respect. Even silent partners started reaching out. One forwarded an email thread from Megan's recent investor update. Buried 3 paragraphs down was a line that said, "I've chosen to pause collaboration with my spouse for the next phase of this vision." No notice, no discussion, just a quiet removal of my name from a business I helped build. That was when I stopped referring to this as damage control. This was a correction. One of her former closest friends, Tessa, texted me next. We hadn't spoken in months. She'd always been the calmest one in their friend group, more observer than instigator. Her message was short. "Hey, you should probably see these." Attached were **TS of a group chat between Megan, Liv, and Serena. In them, Megan bragged about her week without the husband, captioning a wine selfie with, "Finally breathing. Detox begins spiritually and legally." Another message, "Didn't think I'd feel this light so soon. Aiden's booking the second massage. Some tantric surrender thing. Don't judge." Serena replied with heart emojis. Liv told her to go full ghost. There it was. Proof in plain text that this wasn't a mental reset. It was an orchestrated exit, built on the assumption that I'd sit still while she detached. But Megan didn't understand one thing. I don't react anymore. I reallocate. By the 4th day, the notices started reaching her directly. Her bank notified her of a controller change. The letter was automated, legal language wrapped in soft corporate language. But it landed hard. Her name was no longer primary on the shared business accounts. Signature authority revoked. Fund access paused pending trust audit. Then came the studio lease update. Her name was now listed as manager only, no longer managing partner. A change she had unknowingly authorized herself, back when she agreed to a consolidated filing. She texted me for the first time since leaving. "Megan. Hey, getting weird notices from the bank. Can we talk? Megan. Also, the studio access is glitching. I can't see my own files." Erin said she got a legal update? Megan. Then. Seriously. What is this? I didn't reply, because she hadn't asked before making her moves. She didn't deserve a heads up now. Instead, I sent the necessary legal summary to her personal email. Nothing dramatic. Just the plain facts. Clause 7. For be invoked under terms of voluntary absence. Trust control shifted pending audit and board review. Studio operations remain open under existing staff. All actions compliant with signed agreement. No need for further clarification unless she retained counsel. She left it unread. But the studio's admin system told me when she tried to log in again. The attempt was denied. All access grayed out until the compliance audit completed. She'd gone off the grid believing she was safe. She came back into signal range and realized she no longer had the password. And that was just the beginning. Megan came back early. 2 days early to be exact. I knew before she even stepped inside. The smart lock pinged at 9:13 p.m. Her fob reactivated, though not by me. She must have assumed she still had full admin access. She didn't. The fob let her in once, automatically logged, then auto-flagged as unauthorized. Her silence had finally ended. I didn't greet her, didn't stand at the door, arms crossed, waiting for some grand confession. I just listened from upstairs as the front door opened, clicked shut, and stayed that way. No stomping, no bags hitting the floor, just a long pause, like she knew something was off. I heard her heels echo across the hardwood. Stopped short near the kitchen. That's where she saw it. The house was spotless. More spotless than she'd ever kept it. Furniture aligned. Windows clear. Mail stacked. No clutter. No mess. The air smelled like sage. Not her kind. Not the synthetic incense blends she used during clarity hours. But the original dried bundles I used when she first moved in. Back when she said my habits made her feel protected. The space no longer carried her rhythm. Then the second thing hit. The guest room door was slightly open. Inside, clean sheets, new pillows, a robe folded at the foot of the bed, and a small note on the dresser. It wasn't emotional. Just a plain slip of paper with the Wi-Fi code and a temporary pass for the HVAC controls, same as we gave overnight visitors. No pet names. No welcome home. Just logistics. I heard her open it, linger, then retreat back down the hallway. She tried the garage next. Didn't open. Her fob access had been removed per Clause 8. 2A, revoked garage entry under trust transition. I imagined her standing there, blinking at the sensor, waiting for the system to realize who she was. Didn't, because it didn't recognize her anymore. Next came the car. Her Lexus, once registered under her business account, now carried a different tag, mine. Reassigned under the asset clause she signed herself during the year she had me restructure everything for efficiency. She'd pushed for the vehicle to go through the trust because it was cleaner for tax season. That clause had just become her undoing. By 9:30 p.m., I heard drawers opening, cabinets closing, a rising tempo in her footsteps, then silence again. She texted, "Megan, we need to talk. Megan, what the hell is going on with the garage? Megan, did you reassign the car? I just got an alert from the DMV that the registration changed. Megan, Ben?" I didn't reply. Instead, I watched from the hallway as she stood near the staircase, phone in one hand, the other gripping the railing like it could explain something. Her expression wasn't panicked. It was something else. Dissonant. Like she couldn't align the version of me she'd left with the one waiting for her now. There was no yelling. No dramatic plea. She walked upstairs slowly, peeked into our bedroom, saw the closet cleared of her things. I'd folded everything into a series of labeled bins, stacked neatly in the guest room closet. Every drawer she'd ever claimed, emptied. Every item left behind, accounted for. No pettiness, no revenge, just removal. She didn't knock on my door. She didn't ask where I was. She just went back down and tried logging into her studio dashboards. I got the system alert at 10:01 p.m. Megan Cartwright attempted access to Payment Disbursement Panel, access denied. Payroll Editor, access pending audit. Calendar API sync, blocked. The screen would have looked normal at first, same layout, same colors. But the buttons were grayed out. Her drop-down menus locked. Her last login timestamp, 12 days prior. Everything since then changed under board compliance. She would have seen a new message pop up. Admin notice. Your access is temporarily suspended pending trust level audit. Please contact your board representative or legal counsel for further clarification. No drama. No accusations. Just a wall of procedural language that now governed her life. She left the dashboard idle for 10 minutes before logging out. The next morning, I sat at the dining table with a coffee. She emerged just after 7 o'clock, barefoot, robe over her tank top, no makeup, just the same exhausted face I used to see at the end of long studio weeks. Except this wasn't exhaustion. It was erosion. "Can we talk?" she asked softly. I nodded toward the chair across from me. She sat slowly, hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't asked to borrow. I feel like I came home to a version of you I don't recognize. I didn't answer. She tried again. I get that you're angry. I get that I left. But freezing me out like this? It's cruel, Ben. No, I said. It's legal. She blinked. What? You activated the clause when you left without written notice. It's in the trust documents. You signed them. Clark processed everything. I just executed. Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. She switched tactics. Okay, fine. Maybe I screwed up. Maybe I didn't think it through. But this? Changing the garage codes? The car registration? You reassigned ownership to the trust. I didn't do anything that wasn't already in writing. You were the one who pushed for efficiency. She opened her mouth again, then stopped. She wasn't used to being held to her own language. You're really doing this, she said finally. I sipped my coffee. I already did. She stood, the chair sliding back with a low screech. For a second, I thought she might knock over her mug, some small gesture of rebellion. But she didn't. She just walked to the window, stared outside. I was trying to figure myself out, she said. You made me feel like I wasn't allowed to breathe. I didn't reply. I wasn't going to argue feelings. She'd built her entire defense on selective perception. But perception doesn't rewrite bank records, ownership clauses, or lease terms. I'm going to fix this, she said without turning around. I'm going to talk to the board. I cut her off. They already voted. It's locked for 90 days. She turned sharply. You manipulated this whole thing. No, I said calmly. You just didn't read what you signed. The words landed. She left the room without another word. Later that afternoon, I got a call from her silent partner, the one who had co-signed her studio's last funding round. His tone was flat. She didn't loop me in on any of this, he said. I'm not in the mood to lose money over someone else's chaos. I'm siding with you for now. Noted, I replied. That same evening, her bank flagged 2 spa write-offs as personal expenses misclassified under business therapy. The IRS wouldn't care about intent, only documentation. Another audit was now inevitable. By nightfall, she was pacing the guest room, blinds shut, trying to reach someone who could tell her this wasn't happening. But no one answered, because everyone had already seen what she hadn't. You can't disappear for a week and expect your foundation to remain intact. Not when it was built on borrowed structure. Not when someone else finally learned how to read the fine print.